The journey from fig leaves to fast fashion sounds like a simple story. Humans covered themselves. Civilizations made clothing elaborate, and factories filled stores with cheap outfits. But that picture begins with a symbol. The fig leaf comes from Adam and Eve, while clothing reaches far deeper into prehistory, before cities or writing. So why did a survival tool become a global system of novelty, speed, status, and replacement? By the end, the answer will show that clothing never merely covered the body. It helped humans remake society. The earliest clothes are almost invisible to history. Skin, fur, grass, bark, fiber, and plant cord decay quickly, leaving archaeologists with tools and indirect clues rather than wardrobes. One clue comes from clothing lice, which live in garments instead of on the scalp. Genetic research suggests their ancestors separated from head lice at least around 83,000 years ago, and possibly as early as 170,000 years ago. That range is not a birthday for clothing, but it suggests regular garment use is extremely ancient. Early people could scrape hides, wrap them around the body, pierce them with awls, and later sew fitted pieces with bone needles. Clothing protected against cold, wind, sun, insects, thorns, and injury, especially in demanding environments. The 5,000-3,100-year-old Tyrolean Iceman preserves a rare direct example of copper-aged clothing made from several animal species, showing deliberate material choices rather than one crude hide. But protection explains only the beginning. A hide can keep someone warm, yet also announce skill, age, courage, belonging, or access to rare materials. Beads, shells, pigments, feathers, teeth, and worked fibers turned clothing into visible language. Long before written titles or official uniforms, people could read identity from the body, who belonged to a group, who had completed a ritual, and who commanded enough labor to decorate what others wore for survival. Clothing became powerful because everyone could see it. Then agriculture changed the scale of the story. Settled communities could grow fiber plants, herd wool-bearing animals, spin thread, build looms, dye cloth, and preserve specialized knowledge. In ancient Egypt, textile production reaches back to the 4th millennium BC, and linen became associated with daily dress, elite refinement, temple life, and burial. Workers harvested flax, prepared the fibers, spun thread, and wove cloth ranging from coarse fabric to remarkably fine linen. In Mesopotamia and other pastoral regions, wool supported household, temple, and commercial production. Clothing now emerged from organized agriculture, skilled labor, taxation, and trade. Across the ancient Greek world, garments were often constructed from rectangular pieces of wool or linen, pinned, belted, folded, or draped rather than cut into complicated patterns. The same homespun cloth might serve as clothing, bedding, or a burial covering. Yet fabric quality, color, cleanliness, ornament, and arrangement could distinguish wealth, occupation, citizenship, and ceremony. In Rome, clothing also made hierarchy visible. Certain garments and colors carried political associations, while most people dressed according to work, climate, affordability, and local custom. The image of every Roman in a spotless toga confuses a formal status garment with daily life. And this is where the fig leaf becomes misleading. Humans did not pass from naked innocence into clothing because one civilization suddenly invented shame. Societies treated exposure, modesty, labor, sexuality, rank, and sacred bodies differently. Some people covered themselves heavily. Others left parts exposed without attaching the meanings. Later cultures would. Clothing could express modesty, but also beauty, authority, wealth, military role, religious commitment, or communal identity. The body was not simply hidden. It was framed. By the medieval period, clothing across much of Europe remained expensive in human time. Sheep were raised and sheared, flax grown and processed, fibers washed, carded, spun, woven, dyed, cut, and stitched. Ordinary people repaired clothes, altered them for new wearers, handed them down, or sold them secondhand. Elites used fine wool, imported silk, fur, embroidery, and rich dyes to make status visible. Governments sometimes issued sumptuary laws limiting who could wear particular fabrics or decorations. Enforcement was uneven, but the laws reveal anxiety that merchants and prosperous townspeople could imitate higher ranks. Yet medieval clothing was never trapped inside isolated kingdoms. Cotton fabrics moved through Indian Ocean and Red Sea trade. Silk crossed Asian and Mediterranean networks, and dyes, motifs, and tailoring ideas traveled with merchants, migrants, conquest, diplomacy, and pilgrimage. A fragment of cloth could connect fields in one region, skilled hands in another, and customers thousands of miles away. Fashion was becoming global long before anyone said fast fashion. From the 16th through 18th centuries, expanding maritime empires accelerated exchange. Indian painted and dyed cottons became desirable in Europe, while Chinese silks, Ottoman textiles, Persian designs, and European woolens circulated through connected markets. Consumers wanted colors and patterns local producers could not always match. European governments sometimes restricted imported cottons to protect domestic manufacturers, yet demand continued. Producers copied foreign designs, adapted them for new buyers, and built industries around imitation. Clothing became tied to colonial power, forced labor, plantation economies, and competition over trade. Then, machinery transformed production. During the Industrial Revolution, mechanized spinning, powered weaving, improved printing, and sewing machines reduced the time needed to make many textiles and garments. The change was uneven. Handwork remained essential, and factory labor could be exhausting and dangerous. But cloth became more abundant, printed patterns easier to reproduce, and ready-made clothing expanded during the 19th century. Uniforms, workwear, standardized sizing, urban retail, department stores, catalogs, and paper patterns moved clothing away from a world where nearly every garment was individually created. Cotton mills also drew raw material from imperial and slave economies. So mechanical efficiency in one place could depend on coercive labor elsewhere. Cheap fabric was never only a story of machines and commercial power. The surprising part is that cheaper clothing did more than help people own more. It shortened the distance between new styles and ordinary consumers. A silhouette displayed by royalty or high society could be copied, simplified, advertised, and sold widely. Fashion magazines and illustrations spread trends across cities and borders. Later, photography, cinema, and celebrity culture made desire more immediate. The fashionable body could appear in a shop window, newspaper, catalog, or theater. In the 20th century, production and desire accelerated together. Synthetic fibers became practical for mass-market fashion, especially after the Second World War. New fabrics could be inexpensive, washable, stretchable. Youth culture in the 1950s and 1960s challenged the authority of older fashion standards. Music, film, television, and magazines helped young people turn clothing into a statement of independence. Ready-to-wear expanded. Shopping became recreation, and seasonal change became a commercial rhythm. But fast fashion required one more transformation. Speed had to enter the entire supply chain. By the late 20th and early 21st centuries, brands coordinated design, manufacturing, shipping, advertising, and retail across many countries. Computerized planning, rapid communication, container transport, synthetic materials, and organized supplier networks allowed businesses to react quickly to trends. Instead of offering only a few seasonal collections, retailers introduced styles repeatedly, encouraging customers to return often and treat low prices as permission to experiment. That low price can conceal a complicated history. A garment may begin with water-intensive cotton, petroleum transformed into polyester, dyes and treatments, factory labor, international shipping, warehouse handling, and finally, a brief life in a closet. Global garment production supports millions of jobs and provides vital income. Yet the industry faces persistent concerns over wages, safety, excessive hours, pollution, and pressure on suppliers to deliver faster at lower cost. Environmental agencies warn that textiles contribute substantial emissions, water use, chemical pollution, microplastic release, and waste. And this brings us to the question beneath the journey. Why did humans go from fig leaves to fast fashion? Not because clothing followed one straight path from shame to sophistication. The fig leaf is a cultural image. While real clothing began as adaptable technology, it protected bodies, carried identity, organized labor, displayed hierarchy, connected trade routes, strengthened states, enriched merchants, powered factories, and became a rapidly changing consumer product. Every stage added a new reason to dress. Without erasing older ones, we still wear clothing for warmth and protection, but also for work, belief, ceremony, confidence, attraction, rebellion, memory, and belonging. Fast fashion is the latest expression of an ancient habit, using the body's surface to communicate change. What is historically new is not the desire for novelty. Elites pursued changing styles centuries ago. What is new is the scale, the speed, and the ability to buy, copy, distribute, and discard fashion across the planet. The history of clothing carries a quiet warning. Cheapness at checkout does not mean a garment was cheap to make in human or environmental terms. It may mean costs were pushed out of sight, into distant factories, polluted water, exhausted soil, low wages, or waste streams. Understanding that history does not require rejecting fashion. It asks us to see clothing as earlier generations often did, as material, labor, knowledge, and value woven together, from scraped hides to linen workshops, from medieval looms to mechanized mills, from department store windows to endless online releases. Humans kept changing clothes because clothes helped them change who they could be. Fashion offered protection and possibility, but also pressure, distinction, imitation, and profit. The distance from a prehistoric wrap to a cheap modern shirt is enormous. Yet both reveal the same creative species adapting the body to its world. If you enjoy discovering how ancient civilizations, medieval societies, and modern inventions shaped ordinary life, subscribe for more hidden history. We'll see you in the next video.